Hi, everybody. I'm Bianca, and this is the i3net interview series. Today, I'm sitting with Mark Howe to talk all things safety. Mark is the managing director and principal consultant at Howsafe, and he helps businesses navigate workplace health and safety with practical, straightforward advice that improves both safety and compliance. Mark, we were really happy to have you join the i3net network back in March 2026. And safety is such a huge concern for everybody, particularly for industry. And so today I wanted to ask you a few questions that could help other membership with safety in their business. Are you all right if we get started with those questions?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, Bianca. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark. And we really appreciate you giving up your time and your expertise as well to help the network. The first one is, what is the biggest mistake you see organizations making when managing workplace safety?
To put it simply, I think it's the Australian idiom, and there's probably three factors that come in there. As Australians, we're all guilty of saying, she'll be right, mate. The second component, with regards to safety in the workplace, the second component is probably the complacency. Oh, I've been in business for 20 years. I know safety. It hasn't happened before. We've got a good record. And probably the third component is the shortcuts that people make with regards to application of safety in their workplace. And that could be just as simple, so even though it's the bottom level of the hierarchy of control, but application of PPE. We could walk into a dealership tomorrow and I guarantee 40% of them would not have eyes and ears on. So those three components, I think, are the biggest mistakes that they make with regards to it, and believing that they can get through their day-to-day running of the organisation without stringent or strong and robust safety management systems. That's probably the key areas.
Yeah, thank you. And a question around technology. There's lots happening in technology over the past couple of years. How is technology changing the future of workplace safety?
Well, particularly that I've seen over my career, which I'm only 38, but I've had a hard life. Over probably 50 years that I've been dealing with safety, a lot of it was paper-based, and a lot of that stuff that we wrote on bits of paper, they got lost. Then it had to be uploaded onto areas, and then we had to interpret that data. It was rehandled, so there was a big problem. Now with technology, our systems are real-time, active and live. There is auto-filling of areas, they have photo capability, there's email escalations, and there'll be outstanding action. So what we do is actually get closure. So if there is any particular issues, we make sure if there's a shortfall that it is escalated to a process where these actions are closed. That's what technology is doing at the moment. We've embraced that. We have our own team of IT consultants here that work within my group. They write the code, they write e-forms, they look at our databases, and then interfacing that with our gatekeeper and our technology on our WHS portal is why the uptake has been so great with our safety management systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And if a business had only one day to improve their safety performance, where should they start?
Certainly one of the things that they need to have a look at is the people are your most important asset within your business. And consulting with people within your business will give you a great snapshot of where some of your pain points are within the business. And I think a lot of people don't tend to do that. You are duty bound as part of a person conducting a business or undertaking to consult, and must show demonstrable evidence to consult with your workers. So probably consultation and involving those people within your business and giving some recognition of success back as well is pretty important to look at that. And I think that's a good starting point that businesses need to do. In other words, they like coming to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm guessing that worker engagement is probably one of the missing pieces in a lot of systems because I guess businesses would think they have a system in place and just tick it off. But you're saying worker engagement is probably one of the missing pieces.
That's correct. A lot of people, and I've done a lot of high-level audits on big businesses back to board levels, both nationally and internationally. But certainly one of the things that I've found is that if they have paper-based systems and that, they'll fill a room up full of folders. No one goes near those particular folders. And that's probably evident where we see people looking at the use of chemicals and setting up a safety data sheet register. First question I ask is how many people have opened that folder up and had a look at it? You've got to be intuitive with our systems, and that's what our systems do, self-drive and be intuitive. And they are exactly where you guys come. We're very innovative.
Yeah, absolutely. Slightly different question. Are the regulators becoming tougher? I feel like for businesses, there's a lot of work and a lot of things coming at them. So are the regulators becoming tougher, or is it just because business owners and managers have so much to do that they're struggling to keep up, so it feels that way?
Yes, there's a twofold answer to that. We have a very strong rapport with the regulator here in New South Wales. When they see our logos, they know that Howsafe are on board and we don't have any grey areas. It's a legal process. You can't have any grey areas. It's either got to be black or white. They've had a very, very strong recruitment into inspectors. They are turning up in van loads, and we've got evidence of that. Well, I'll just turn up and target an industry, be it this state or other states around Australia. It's all happening, and they'll just walk in with their books out and they're issuing fines and improvement notices. This is complicated by the fact that a lot of businesses really don't understand that a regulator can enter their business at any time to review and access your mandatory or assess your mandatory WH due diligence requirements for your workplace. So it's a twofold answer. I think it's a lack of education by businesses understanding what their requirements are, and they are law. The law says you must have a safety management system, and if you haven't, they've adopted this process. The regulator is becoming tougher. They're coming in.
In that increased time of pressure, what do you think will separate organizations and high performing organizations from everybody else in that safety space?
The biggest part about when you go in is being able to find that demonstrable evidence. Your due diligence is based on it. You can't say, oh, yes, we've done that, we do that. You must show demonstrable evidence of that particular implementation of suitable instruction, training, supervision, etc. of your workforce. Having that on a paper base where it's spread everywhere, where it takes you half an hour to find it, becomes difficult and becomes frustrating for someone doing an audit. Our systems are very, very strong in the fact that even right to the ISO certifications that we do for both safety, quality and environment, that if you can find that information in a central real-time repository and do it instantaneously, it makes it a lot easier to answer the questions, and it fulfills the obligations of where that is. And that grows the confidence in the regulator by saying these guys understand about what their obligations are. So that's probably a key area of being able to maintain an organisation to show your strong application by having a readily and easily and efficient accessible process to that demonstrable evidence of your due diligence.
Yeah, absolutely. Then my last question for you, if you walked into a workplace tomorrow and you only had 10 minutes to determine whether safety was actually part of the culture or just a folder on a shelf, what would you look for if you just had 10 minutes?
The first thing that I look at within those particular areas are housekeeping. If people have a area where they're looking after their workplace, things have a spot, tidiness, housekeeping will probably alleviate 70 to 80% of workplace issues within the workplace. Uh, Talking to your workers, and that is probably the other part, is saying, how do you feel? Is your voice being heard? And it's about talking to those people, and I'll use my mining background at the coalface, so to speak, and asking those people is the best part, rather than having the gloss from the top end. And certainly feeling that commitment from the upper level of executive management of a business is a very important process to having confidence in what's going on with regards to safety. That's pretty important.
Yeah, definitely. And Mark, for people who are thinking that their safety systems definitely need some work or perhaps would benefit from you taking a look, what's the process with HowSafe? How does it work for a member who's interested to find out more?
We do what's called a safety check or a health check. So basically, we'll have a look at key components, and the key issues are the legislation has changed. A new regulation came in and it imposed further primary duties on business. Particularly, the big ones were areas of psychosocial hazards and also respirable silica quartz. However, there has been changes from the 1st of July from this year as well, that codes of practice now are admissible in the court of law with regards to being supportive documents under the WHS Act and regulations. Now, there's 40 something codes of practice. The regulation and the Act, who wants to read 170 pages of an Act and 250 of a regulation and then coordinate it? We make it simple in this particular process, and people need to understand about what they need to do and how confident they can be with their compliance. We can certainly fix that. So the step would be to do a gap analysis, health and safety check of the business, see the good points, recognise the strong points, use that as a foundation, and then fill the gaps in the areas of compliance where it comes in. That's probably our first start. We do that with a lot of business, and there's a small fee for that. And if people take up our systems, we reimburse the business back with that audit costing. So it's a pretty easy process about how we can do it. The most important part is that we can get this up and running. Depending on the size of the business, we've done it with national businesses and we've done it within a month. Smaller businesses, you can do it a lot quicker. And we can have the portals up and running, inductions, the allocated training, the whole process of their mandated due process up and running very quickly. But that starting point is certainly something where we can go in and show in black and white where there is an opportunity for improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing some of your expertise and the steps with us. I'll certainly pop your contact details down. We really value HowSafe being a part of the network. We're thrilled to have you on board with us and looking forward to seeing you and your team at future i3net events. Thank you so much for your time, Mark.
If I may say, in response to that, it's been a pleasure working with you guys.
Thank
The
you.
professionalism of the i3net process is fantastic, and I really believe that we've got a big benefit that we can place within the members here. As stated, it's not a would, should, or could, it's a must do, and we can do this very efficiently. The regulators love it, and we can do it at a very cost effective process for businesses. So, looking forward to assisting members within the group of their requirements or even just giving them advice. So thank you so much, Bianca.
Thank you and appreciate your time today. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Bye.